The Steelers will take on the Cincinnati Pussycats in the season finale here in Week 18 on Saturday night. And man, I'm really hoping that this Pittsburgh Steelers team can turn things around to finish up their season heading into the 2024 playoffs. Welcome into the Week 18 preview here on Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry, and we will be going live on Saturday, me and Coop, for an hour and a half, an extended pregame tailgate here. We usually go live an hour before kickoff. We're going live an hour and a half before kickoff on Saturday for our regular season finale watch party here on Steelers Talk. It all starts at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be covering the end of the Ravens and Browns game, setting up the stage for the Steelers versus Bengals starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time is the kick. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. We have the largest Steelers watch parties anywhere on the YouTube platform. We really do appreciate all of your support here at Steelers Talk. So make sure you join our family here and click that sub button. Okay, let's get into this matchup here. The 8-8 Cincinnati Bengals still alive to potentially make the playoffs here. They need some help, but if they win against the Pittsburgh Steelers, they will have a shot to be in the 2024 playoffs if I believe it's the Dolphins and the Broncos both lose on Sunday. But the Pittsburgh Steelers still have a shot to win the AFC North. Now the Ravens need to lose to the Browns and DTR, and the chances of that are pretty low in my opinion. But you can really solidify yourself here with the 5th seed in the AFC playoff picture with a win, all right? And that would mean you go to Houston, a very beatable team on the road on Wild Card Weekend. So I think that Mike Tomlin said it best. The Steelers need to get the stench of the last 3 weeks off of this football team here so you can start feeling a little bit better about yourself heading into the postseason. If the Steelers can put together a win this week and end the Bengals season, sweep them for the 2024 campaign, I absolutely believe that the Pittsburgh Steelers can feel good about themselves heading into Wild Card Weekend. You guys can take a look here at what happened the last time these two faced off, and it was the best offensive performance we've seen from a Steelers offense in a very long time. Russell Wilson, his best game as a Steeler, 414 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, was absolutely phenomenal all game long, was making throws off platform, off schedule, in the red zone, consistently answering the bell, despite throwing an early pick 6, which was freaking bullshit, by the way, because the refs completely gave that to Cam Taylor-Britt, who ripped down George Pickens by his helmet. Despite that, the Steelers showed resilience, and they won that game 44-38. And also, keep in mind here, Mike Tomlin sucks on short weeks, but if you give him extra time to prepare, this guy is one of the best in the league in terms of his record when he has ample time to prepare for a football game. And keep in mind also, Cincinnati played on a Saturday, so this is pretty much a normal schedule for them. So I think that the Steelers have the advantage in that regard. Now we take a look at the Steelers' injuries heading into the week. Joey Porter Jr., Ben Skoranek are expected to play this week, so those are 2 big additions. Skoranek as a special teamer and also as a supplementary wide receiver piece. Joey Porter Jr., of course, is the enforcer as your number 1 corner. Justin Fields is also expected to play. He hurt his abs a couple weeks ago running his sole run of that Ravens game. He was out last week. He's expected to be back for this game. And, 2 people that could potentially return, they're slated to potentially get a return. Roman Wilson, the wide receiver, is slated for a potential return this week. But honestly, with him missing so much time, I kind of doubt they throw him in there in this big of a spot. And then Cole Holcomb with that knee injury hasn't played all season. Honestly, guys, with all the miscommunication stuff, I don't think it's a good idea to throw a guy out there that hasn't played since midway through last season and hasn't played at all this year. So I don't expect those guys to play. But then the Bengals injuries this week. Now, Chase Brown, Amarius Mims, I would probably expect those guys to play. But Sam Hubbard, I would probably classify as doubtful at this point. He suffered a PCL injury in the Titans game a couple weeks back. I don't expect him on the field for Cincinnati. Trent Brown and Daxton Hill both could potentially return from IR this week, but they're currently on IR. Actually, no, I think that they are on IR and they can't return this week, so don't expect Trent Brown or Daxton Hill. The guys that could return off of IR are DJ Turner, who has a collarbone injury, Evan McPherson, their kicker, who's dealing with a groin, and Logan Wilson, who's dealing with a knee injury. And by the way, all 3 of these players, very important players for the Cincinnati Bengals, both on special teams and defense. Talking about the Bengals here and their results so far this season, really tough start. Lost to the Patriots, the Chiefs, and the Commanders to start the season. Then, they haven't really beaten a lot of good teams. Like, you look at the teams that they've beaten throughout this season. Panthers, Giants, Browns, Raiders, Cowboys, Titans, Browns, and Broncos. That's a very unimpressive resume from the Cincinnati Bengals. If you want to talk about the Steelers not being able to beat good teams, the Cincinnati Bengals have not been able to beat good teams all season long, but that win against the Broncos was huge for them last week and has put them in position to potentially make a push for the postseason here in Week 18. So this is who they are here and what they like to run. Zach Taylor is their head coach. He's 45, 52, and 1 as their head coach there in Cincinnati, so below 500 record. He runs the offense and he does call plays, and he runs a hybrid style offense, kind of a hybrid between the McVay style West Coast and then kind of the spread formation, kind of heavy shotgun type of stuff we see from teams in college, see from teams like the Kansas City Chiefs. He likes to incorporate a lot of different concepts for Joe Burrow. And then Lou Anarumo is their defensive coordinator, runs a balanced 4-2 system, likes to do a lot of man-match coverage. And, over the last 2 seasons, the people on the back end there in Cincinnati have not done a good job in coverage with those match rules. So you take a look here at the Bengals offense. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. That's the holy trinity there in Cincinnati. That's just the way it is, man. It's very difficult to guard both Jamar and T because they're both dominant players, and Joe Burrow really good at getting the ball out. When he's not getting the ball out, he's improvising at a super high level. He's playing MVP caliber football this year. Also keep your eye on Chase Brown and Mike Gesicki as other weapons at Burrow's disposal. Take a look here at the team trends, and you can see here the Bengals offense, one of the best in the game. All right, you can make an argument for top 5 offense, definitely in the top 10. They're below average in turning the ball over, so keep that in mind here for the Steelers. Steelers were able to turn the Bengals over 3 times the last time these two teams collided, so keep that in mind as you head into this football game. And you look at the points per game trends here. The Bengals are scoring 28.3 points per game. The Steelers are giving up 20.5, which would predict 24 points for the Cincinnati Bengals on Saturday night. Then we take a look at the defensive side of the ball, dealing with some injuries like we talked about earlier, but they got Trey Hendrickson as their superstar player, Jermaine Pratt, B.J. Hill, and Cam Taylor-Britt. Like, the fact that I'm putting those 3 guys on the key defensive pieces right now, guys, tells you just how little talent this Cincinnati Bengals defense has with the injuries that they currently are plagued with. So you take a look at the team trends this year, and the Steelers certainly have the advantage in this side of the ball, so it should be an offensive football game here, in my opinion. The Bengals have really struggled all season long, and now with all these injuries that they've been dealing with lately, it's just not been very good. And the one thing that this defense can hang their hat on is that they're top 10 in turning the ball over, so the Steelers, it has to be paramount for them to not turn the ball over and protect the ball here at home in Week 18. So the points per game trends show the Steelers score 23.9 points per game with Russell Wilson at quarterback this year, and the Bengals defense gives up 26.1 points per game this year, which would predict 26 points for the Pittsburgh Steelers at home here in Week 18. If you've been following along here, that would predict a 26-24 win for the Pittsburgh Steelers here at home in the season finale. So that's within the margin of error. When you do these kind of stat analysis here, usually the margin of error is 3 points. So the Bengals are certainly within that margin of error, especially since the Steelers defense hasn't been playing nearly as well as it was at the beginning of the season. So this is certainly one that the trends predict to go down to the wire here in Week 18. So still to come here on the Steelers Talk preview for the season finale in Week 18. Keys to victory versus the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm going to let you guys know how the Steelers can stop Joe Burrow or at least contain Joe Burrow and this Cincinnati Bengals passing attack. And then I got my Week 18 score prediction for you guys at the end of today's show. So make sure you guys don't miss that. Before we get into the rest of today's content on the preview, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Prize Picks, which is the best place to get real money sports action all on your phone this football season. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more than or less than on at least 2 player stat projections for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play just $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday, where every Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. You guys can see here for the college football playoffs, I'm going to be taking the more on Melquan Stovall's receiving yards. I'm taking the more on Will Howard's passing yards, and I'm taking the more on Carnell Tate's receiving and rushing touchdowns for this week's matchup. So download the PrizePicks app today if you haven't already and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup when you download the PrizePicks app today. PrizePicks, run your game. So my keys to victory here for the Pittsburgh Steelers here in Week 18. Number one is get after Joe Burrow, because this is not a very good offensive line here in Cincinnati. Now, Burrow had a very good game against the Steelers, back in Week 13. Over 300 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. He did have a pick, but, this is somebody that's been playing MVP caliber football all season long. He's been carrying this team over this 4-game winning streak, which has put the Bengals in position to maybe even sneak into the playoffs here. My scouting report here on Burrow: he is an elite NFL quarterback. He is in the elite of the elite tier for me. Top 4 quarterback in the league. You can say that maybe he doesn't have the most elite physical skill set, but all the nuances of the position, this guy is a master at. Footwork, touch, accuracy, throwing mechanics, playmaking out of structure, a natural feel for playmaking when he's outside the pocket, man. He's got superb throwing mechanics, and he's just got an incredible feel for the game. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He knows how to target Jamar and T extremely well. And the way that you got to stop him is you got to put him on the ground, plain and simply, man. You take a look at Cincinnati's offensive line, PFF grades, and ranks this year. This is a really bad offensive line, man. You look at where all these guys rank at their given positions. I don't know if there's one person on here that is an above-average player at their position. Now, Orlando Brown Jr., when he's healthy, is pretty good, but this season's been a down year for him. Ted Karras has been decent throughout his career, but he's currently ranking 24th out of 42 eligible centers, according to Pro Football Focus. And I like Amarius Mims, but he's still a little bit raw, and he still has a little ways to go, and he might not even play this week. I do think he will play, but this is an offensive line that the Steelers pass rush can abuse, and I expect them to abuse this weekend here. I'm looking at TJ Watt. I don't care if your ankle's hurting, man. You got to get the job done if you're on the field. Alex Highsmith, he's been doing a phenomenal job these last 3 weeks. Needs to continue to do so. Nick Herbig, when you get in there, man, make a big play against this team like you did last time when you got that strip sack on Joe Burrow in the 4th quarter. I mean, you got to make big plays on this defensive line. They're making as much money as they are for a reason. They got to make their money on Saturday night. Second thing the Steelers need to do is contain Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and it's going to be easier said than done. Both of these guys had really, really good games against the Steelers previously, and you take a look here at what these guys were able to do in Week 13. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. Now, I will say that the target-to-reception ratio is a little bit worse than what they usually get. The Steelers' defense did a pretty decent job, I'd say, against these guys. But, a touchdown apiece, over a first down per catch for both of them. I do expect these guys to get their licks, but the Steelers need to do a good job at limiting those. And last time that these two teams played, Joey Porter Jr. was matched up on T. Higgins, and Dante Jackson was the one that was locked in on Jamar Chase. Now, that worries me a little bit because Dante hasn't been very good in coverage this year, all right? So I honestly think his best day coverage-wise might have been against the Bengals in Week 13. Can he replicate that? Can he keep Jamar to under 100 yards? Once again, that's going to be a big question mark in this football game for me. Number 3, key to victory for the Steelers this week is don't let Trey Hendrickson loose, because he's got 14 sacks this year, which is tied for the league lead with, guess who, Myles Garrett. So Hendrickson has had a really, really good season this year, man, and I think that, Dan Moore Jr. has gotten worse and worse as the season has gone on. I'm really hoping Dan can have a bounce-back game this week and stop Trey Hendrickson. 4th key to victory here is to feed George Pickens, all right? Because George Pickens has been an absolute monster against the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't know if anybody against any team has a higher yards per reception or yards per catch than George Pickens has against the Cincinnati Bengals. 27.5 yards per catch against this football team in his career, man. 15 catches, 413 yards, and 4 tuds. This guy can take it to the house at any moment, especially because he's going to be going up against Cam Taylor-Britt, who is not, I would consider somebody that's a number 1 starting corner in the National Football League. And plain and simply, guys, my message to George Pickens: didn't have a great week last week in your return versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Trent McDuffie kind of got in your face and got in your grill. This week, no excuses, man. Make Cam Taylor-Britt your freaking bitch this week, GP. Go out there, have a big game, get Russ cooking again, and that's my final key to victory for you guys. Let Russ cook. Now, I know what you're saying. Jack, the offense only scored 10 points versus Kansas City. The offense hasn't been as good. But when was the offense at its best? It was before George Pickens got hurt, and it was when Russell Wilson was throwing the ball multiple times. 38 times the last time these two teams linked up. Russell Wilson threw the football, had 414 yards and 3 touchdowns. This is a team that Russell Wilson can absolutely dice up. He did it earlier in the year. Now that he has all of his weapons back healthy, and Jaylen Warren is even playing some really good football right now, and he's getting hot at the right time. I expect Russell Wilson to have a bounce-back performance on Saturday, and anything less, I'll be pretty disappointed in QB1. Now, my score prediction here, I'm going to go with the Steelers to win. I think it's going to be relatively close. I'm going to go 31-27, Steelers win. Now, I know given the recent offensive struggles, I'm sure some of you at home are laughing at me right now for even predicting the Steelers to score 31. But this is a defense in Cincinnati that they have ripped apart with Kenny Pickett. They ripped apart with Mason Rudolph, and they ripped apart with Russell Wilson earlier this year. I think they get past that 30-point threshold yet again. And I think the Steelers defense will be improved this week, but I do think Burrow, Chase, and Higgins will get their licks in. I'm going to go 31-27, big-time victory. They're going to make a big play in the fourth quarter and deliver the win heading into the postseason. So now it's your turn. Predict the score for me of Pittsburgh versus Bengals down there in the comments section. I got 31-27 Steelers win. Let me know your prediction down there in the comments. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Again, we're going to be going live for this football game, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, an hour and a half before the 8 o'clock kick Eastern Time, of course. And, you know, it's going to be the regular season finale. This has been an unbelievable season here on Steelers Talk, and it's just getting started as far as I'm concerned because the playoffs start next week. All right, so click that subscribe button if you haven't already for extensive Steelers coverage for free every single day.